Hey, good evening all. I was really amazed in that footage that we opened with, just how much it looked like fall out there. There were some very beautiful colors this evening, and now we've just got another clear sunset. I guess very typical in this weather pattern we have, very dry and a little bit on the warm side. All right, let's take a look at the weather map. This is the station plots and the theta, the potential temperature. It's basically the temperature reduced to sea level. Now, usually the first thing that I look at when I view these maps is the wind pattern. And we can kind of see a spiral appearance, which is indicating high pressure somewhere over Missouri this evening, so right about there. So we're getting a flow pushing off the Gulf Coast. So the Gulf is shut down tonight. So I think we're kind of very slowly slipping into a winter type pattern here. Just only a very little trace of onshore flow there in Texas. Pretty warm out in Colorado. We can see a bit of a thermal ridge in the Rocky Mountain region right there. And then up in the northwest, we've got what looks like maybe a little bit of a frontal boundary through the Great Basin area. We can see that the winds down around Cedar City and Hanksville, they're coming out of the south. So it looks like we're starting to get kind of a warm pattern in the desert southwest. However, off the northwest coast, it does look like a little bit of northerly flow around Portland, Astoria, and maybe all the way down to Arcata there. So probably a little bit of cold air filtering down, a little bit of baroclinicity in that part of the western U.S. And then looking out in the eastern U.S., looks like we got more thermal ridge covering the area. So maybe kind of a two-part thing going on here. This part of the thermal ridge over Georgia and South Carolina. So we're getting a little bit of a northerly flow there in Florida. And then, of course, north of these high-pressure areas, we would expect to find westerly flow. So we've got that going on there in the Great Lakes area and New England. So that's kind of the lowdown there. Now, another way we can analyze the weather is to go up to the upper levels. So here we have the 850 millibar chart, and we need to see when this is valid. So December 1st, 0Z. So that's only about 2 hours ago. So this is 850 millibars up at about 8,000 feet. And usually with these charts, I like to start out again with the wind flow. So we can see that over the Midwest, we've got northwesterly flow. And it comes around to southerly flow. Let me color code these. So we'll make that kind of a cold pattern, cold northwest flow, and then we've got warm southerly flow there in the high plains. So let's see, offshore flow coming all the way down into Florida like that, and then it looks like maybe out in West Texas it starts curving around to the east. So it looks like we got a little bit of high pressure right there in Kansas. So I'll just kind of circle that right there. So this is our 850 millibar high, and you notice that it kind of tilts with height. The surface highs are down in this area here, and they tilt upward towards Kansas, and that's pretty typical. It usually tilts back upward towards the warm air. And then out in the western U.S., looks like the predominant flow is maybe out of the south. Certainly got that going on there in eastern Washington and Idaho, and even in Nevada. So it looks like, we are developing this warm pattern, and only a little bit of northerly flow around Oakland and maybe a tiny northerly component at Salem. Most of the cold air this evening locked up there in the Northwest Territories. We got to go way up north to find 850 millibar temperatures below 0 Fahrenheit. But there it is. and looks like that's going to stay up north for at least a few days. Pretty much the same pattern at 700 millibars. This is 10,000 feet. And then if we go all the way up to maybe 250 millibars, we start picking up that very zonal pattern. And we talked about a block off in Greenland out in the Atlantic. We add in that region, so we're going to have to take a look at the chart and see if that's still there. And we do have the polar vortex out over Nunavut, around Coral Harbor, Hall Beach. And that's typically where we find it this time of year. The polar front jet itself, that flows from about Oregon to Montana, and then looks like around Illinois, and then all the way up towards Montreal and up the St. Lawrence. And it looks like the subtropical jet starting to show up. There it is off to the south, and where that comes together and kind of meets up with the polar front jet, we've got a little bit of strengthening of the upper level wind flow. 90 knots there at Medford, and 95 there at Springfield. But once you get a little bit further south, around Austin and San Antonio, flow comes down to about 30 knots. Okay, let me take a look at the chat. I got kind of a quiet night here on chat. It is Thursday, so a lot of people are busy right now, and also a lot of fair weather. Not much to really look at this evening. We have fun with tech here, party time in the autumn. Megan John, 34 degrees there in Minnesota. Got Mike R with us. And Megan John. Been missing you guys watching every morning the webcast. I appreciate that. Mr. Manlet decided to try a hand analysis. Congratulations there, and yeah, that's definitely good practice. He wants to show his picture, but doesn't know how to put a JPEG on here. Well, maybe tomorrow night you can post it for us. A good site to go to is going to be imageur.com. I'll just show you where that is. Yeah, imageur.com up here. You can basically upload graphics without an account, and you can feel free to post that anytime. All right, let's see. Who else? David Moore. Nice day in the Metroplex today. We have Alexi Pinkson Walsh and Mike R. reporting nice day in California. No real weather expected. Alexi says it's been a while since. Hope I didn't forget too much. Yeah, don't worry about that. Sue M. wave to webcast regulars. Thomas Copeland is with us, and David Moore says that when he can't make the live cast, it's nice. They're there for the watching. Yeah, the archive webcast. Fun with Tech and Burl H., Carl Burkhoff, David Moore reporting a little bit of buffering. And Mike Bexley also joining us. And everybody reporting just a little bit of minor buffering. And yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of yellow here, so I'm not too sure what that problem is. All right, let's head into the maps. We've already gone through the upper analysis, so we can look at the thickness. Looks like our thermal gradients are spread pretty far apart. Very large spread there between low thickness and high thickness. And it looks like they're not really bunched up together until you get out into the Pacific. So I think that's our next system right there, lurking off the British Columbia coast. And the system looking a little bit like that right there. And really, that's about the only weather we have going on. There's that high there in Kansas, some of it extending down to Georgia. And then, yeah, pretty quiet out there in the Great Basin area. Okay, let's see here. We'll go to Yeah, this is one thing that I did notice. This is the temperature anomaly. Looking very warm here in North America. Only a few locations in the Northwest Territories and Nunavut below normal. Pretty much all of the U.S. running a little bit above normal. And kind of the same story out there in Asia. Only Europe showing below normal temperatures and part of Siberia there. And it's kind of disturbing how much, this is getting to be pretty common, seeing all this red on here. Let me take a look at the graph on here. They've got a pretty neat panel that kind of looks at all the points on this graph on that map and kind of plots the trends. So it's showing that the world overall slightly trending upwards from June and July there. And you can see they've got it broken down here by hemisphere. Red, northern hemisphere, that's trending upward, running about 1 degree Celsius above normal. Southern hemisphere, though, looking pretty consistent over time. And then the black line, that's representing the world there. So some pretty neat graphs on here, and they've got it broken down also by region. So if we want to look at the U.S., there's the U.S. and southern Canada. So looking pretty warm this evening. This is a valid chart for 0Z about 2 hours ago. So only around Salem, Oregon, Yellowstone, and northern Idaho, and part of New Hampshire there, the only places running below normal. It looks like a whole lot of warm air on the plateau there where the Four Corners is located out there. Okay, I guess we'll just go ahead and head into the forecast. Actually, I think I'll take a look at the blocking and see what's going on with that. So yesterday we were talking about this big block here over the Atlantic. 5,000 miles from the Azores all the way to northern Siberia. And this evening, looks like it's starting to break up a little bit, so that's good news. We want the weather to be kind of changeable, so we have more things to look at, of course. So anyway, there's a little bit of a trough there over the Great Lakes area. Heights above normal throughout much of the U.S., so no wonder it's kind of warm. And let's see what's coming up over the next couple weeks. Actually, that's not the right one. It's the other chart here. There we go. There's the 200 millibar chart. This is up at 39,000 feet. And let's see what happens over the next couple weeks. Got a little bit of a, looks like maybe almost a cutoff low off LA and San Diego. So since that's still kind of open, that should progress eastward. And there it comes inland, heading for Arizona. You can see the subtropical jet there over Oklahoma and Arkansas, polar front jet well to the north. And finally, that little trough approaches, looks like around Sunday, so we're going to keep our eye out for maybe a little bit of cyclogenesis over Texas. If there's any baroclinicity in that area, this upper level lift right in this area could get a low forming in that region. Looks pretty active there in California over the weekend into Nevada. And we get the approach of a large trough. So this is what's going to happen next week. The trough's going to move across the western states. There it is right there. It looks like some of the Pineapple Express will become a factor also, bringing moisture up into the southwestern U.S. And looks like out on the east coast, conditions should be kind of warm with those height rises out in that area. So things look pretty active there in the Texas and Oklahoma area around midweek. And there goes the trough moving into the eastern U.S. around Wednesday and Thursday. And behind it, we've got northerly flow. If there's any cold air in western Canada, that should bring it southward. And it looks like a lot of height falls, surprisingly, about a week from now. You see how how we went from this all the way to that. Yeah, it looks like we're really digging this trough pretty deep there. So we'll have to check out the surface charts. Looks like another trough coming back in behind. That'll probably dig that a little bit further. Yeah, there's a pretty good trough right there over the western U.S. So we're getting quite a pattern shift here, and then we get to the end of the map here on the 16th. Pretty good flow there over Pennsylvania, New York. Looks like 150 knots with that jet there in the northeast. Okay, so let's check out the surface chart and see what happens here. And before I get into that, let me just take one last look at the chat, and you can look at the water vapor imagery for the west coast there. So yeah, we are bringing a little bit of moisture there into Arizona and Baja California. And up north of there, this is the region up here. That's the polar front jet region. And what we have here, this is more subtropical. Thomas Copeland mentioning an earthquake there off the coast of Delaware. Yeah, that's pretty unusual. That's going to be an intraplate earthquake, which is kind of rare there. Carl Berghoff a little nervous about the La Nina season. Alexi says they dropped the quake from 5.5 to 5.1 and now down to 4.4. I haven't heard about that. I'll have to check that out. Electric Dog made it. And Carl Berghoff reporting a La Nina that's not too strong. New outlook should be there pretty soon. Okay, so yeah, we'll go ahead and head into the forecast and wrap it up so I can get back to work on the book, and hopefully tonight it will be done. I got pretty close last night. Okay, so anyway, there goes our high pressure there into the eastern U.S. And it looks like the next bit of weather coming together will be in the western U.S. out in this area here. And we can see a little bit of rain coming on the Oregon coast around Saturday and Sunday. And there it comes. System moving inland into Nevada and Southern California. And also we have a little bit of lee side troughing there from Colorado down to New Mexico. So things are starting to get active out there Monday and Tuesday. So there's our new system there, and now we form up kind of a front. Looks kind of like that right there. Looks like kind of an antifront with some precip back behind it and some upslope flow. Strong southerly flow coming in from Texas, picking up moisture off the Gulf, bringing that northward. And we see that coming together pretty well there. Front coming down, this is going to be Monday night into Tuesday. So that should really change the patterns here. 540 line coming all the way down to the Texas Panhandle. And I think this is a little more aggressive than what the models had last night. So it looks like some showery weather there in the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. Front clears Texas on Wednesday. And behind it, 540 line coming all the way down to the Red River. And then I remember we were seeing some troughing out to the west, so we're going to look for the weather, some weather coming together out in that region. So I'm watching this area right here. Things pretty quiet there in the central and eastern U.S. This is kind of what I'm looking at. And meanwhile, it looks like we do get a little bit of an Alberta clipper coming south. There it is. So this is a reinforcing shot of cold air. Actually, I think that front is probably more like that right there. So anyway, there's our next outbreak there of cool air. And another one. So this is around Tuesday the 12th. There we go. Yeah, there's something coming together right there. Very strong pressure gradient there in the Front Range and the Central Rockies. And you can see some very tight thermal gradient coming together there in North California and Nevada. So this will probably be the start of maybe some Santa Ana winds there in California. Upslope flow getting set up in Texas there on the 13th. Upslope flow in Colorado and Nebraska, so snow showers coming together in this region here. And yeah, look, Red River, freezing rain, sleet. So that's going to be a pretty active system. And yeah, there's the Santa Ana starting to set up there in California. And wow, that's pretty impressive there. This is the 348-hour chart for the 15th, bringing freezing rain and sleet into East Texas. And looks like maybe another Alberta clipper coming in from the north there. Wow, so that will be quite a change here around mid-month. But like I said, the first change will start around Tuesday or Wednesday. Pretty strong front coming in through from the south or from the north. In fact, let me show that to you. There we go. Yeah. So that's the first change coming in for December 5th. And then just kind of quiet, cool period. And then for mid-month, 13th, 15th, 16th, things get active in the central and Rocky Mountain region. So that should give us something to look forward to around mid-month. So that's about all I got for tonight. I hope you all have a good evening, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow night. And hopefully I'll have the book done. All right, take care. We'll see you.